and Darren Turner were able to even do it in 16 or 17 seconds, which I find astonishing. It literally involves being manhandled out the car. As soon as the door opens, a mechanic or the other driver will grab your race suit on the chest and just haul you out, throw you over the side pod, and then bail in themselves.
That is one of the arguments for open-top cars. In LMP2, we've got both closed-top and open-top. They're going over to coupes. And I know when I was speaking to Chris Reinker at Audi, he said they're thinking in the days of the open Audis was different because it was so much quicker,
faster driver changes. Then Audi would go left-hand drive, going back to that old discussion we've been having all week. I was watching the G Drive team practice their driver changes today, and they were doing it in sort of 35 seconds, which to me seemed very slow. But at the same time, if you've got that window available by adding together fuel plus tires, then you may as well use it. Right, back at the head of the race, we've got Earl Bamber in the number 19 Porsche, leading by 41 seconds currently from Marco Bononomi in the number 9 Audi, and then Benoit Treillier, the number 7 Audi, following him in 3rd place, but over a minute further down the road. A lap behind, Brendan Hartley in the number 17 Porsche is being chased not that closely by Loic Duval's Audi, a further lap behind Brendan. And then finally the number 18 Porsche, which we saw skate off into the gravel at Mulsanne Corner an hour or two ago, is down in 6th position. The Toyotas have been pretty static there at the tail end of the LMP1 field in 7th and 8th position.
And they're lapping 10 seconds a lap slower.
They are, but they weren't. That's why I'm hesitating now, because I remember looking at timing screens and seeing them doing 25s at the time when the Audis and the Porsches were doing 23s. And you know, if you're able to just go a couple of seconds off the pace, and that keeps you in the hunt. But the problem, Chris, you're right, is that there are too many of these laps where there is a 10-second gap.
Yeah, and that adds up very quickly, doesn't it? And at the top of the race, we can see that Earl Bamber is losing a bit. The gap to Marco Bononomi has come down to 41 seconds, and it was over a minute. So there's been a change of about 25 seconds there. And
between which cars?
Between number 19 Earl Bamber in the Porsche and number 9 Marco Bononomi in the Audi.
Well, that's because the Audi did not change tyres in its last pit stop, and the Porsche did. But
still, it's the Audi's going 3 or 4 seconds a lap quicker.
It is at the moment because Marco Bononomi is towards the end now of a very, very long stint, so he's completely comfortable in the car, and Earl Bamber is still getting into the swing of it. He's only, what, 5 or 6 laps into his stint.
Sure, but they certainly don't need him to slip anymore, do they?
Right, gents, we need your expert opinions on a question from Fletchdale. Is there a more complete driver out there than Andre Lotterer? He's so fast and consistent.
No, there isn't. He's a great driver.
He is a great driver. I'm surprised you're so instantly clear-cut on that, though.
Is there a better one? No, I think there might be some that are as good, perhaps, but better? Significantly, no. I mean, he's an absolute superstar. He fits all the bills, does Andre Lotterer. Does an excellent job, very, very rarely makes a mistake. Super consistent, looks after the equipment, brings it home.
And he's
exactly what you want.
He seems so comfortable in his position. That
he does. He sort of owns it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You can tell whatever's going on, he's not phased. He just owns the situation.
He's a really safe pair of hands.
It's a quiet confidence, isn't it? He certainly isn't cocky.
While being blindingly fast at the same time.
Yeah.
So, okay, so what is it that separates him from the myriad of also exceptional pro drivers in his team and the Porsche team and so on? What is it that gives him a little edge that makes you so quickly, Jeremy, say, yeah, absolutely, he's the best?
I'm not saying he's the best necessarily. I certainly wouldn't. I'd maybe have time to think about that a little bit more. But there's not very many people better than him. But the reason I say that is because he's so versatile. You can put him in an open wheel car and he's super fast. You know, in the Super Formula in Japan, fantastically quick in those cars. Did that Formula 1 race last year, didn't he? In the Caterham, was right on the pace.
Pretty good,
for what the car was capable of doing. And 10 years ago when he came over to the States to drive an IndyCar a couple of times, again right on the pace of what that car could perform at. He's always been like that. He's a really, really impressive driver.
Well, he has got so much experience.
Yeah.
And he was able to turn down a second Formula 1 drive. Now, how many people do that, even in a Caterham? Yeah.
If you're listening to this explanation at home and thinking it's all just a bit sickeningly good, I advise you not to follow Lotterer's Instagram account, because it's sickening in itself, cruising around Tokyo on his Harley Davidson between races, just generally living a very high quality of life. It's very funny.
He has raced in Japan for a long time.
Oh yeah. He certainly has. He's made his home. That's what made his career, really. I mean, he's been over there for, golly, it's got to be 15 years, I would think. Better part of it, anyhow. And it's been a big part of what he's done. He's been over there. When did he move over there? Maybe not quite 15 years, but certainly 10 years, anyhow.
I would have thought it was more than 15, actually, Jeremy.
Yeah, won Super GT in 09. Won the Formula Nippon as it was then in 2011. Of course, the World Endurance Championship in 2012. But still races in Japan and loves it over there. He's got, as you say, Sam, he's got a very, very good standard of living.
Got Roman Dumas here, fully suited and booted, waiting to take over the car from Jeremy. You got something to say?
No, I was just going to add to that by saying, and it's going to be very interesting to see now how Roman gets on, because the last time he drove that car, you remember, he ran off the road at Mulsanne Corner, damaged the nose, brought it in and handed it over to Neil Jarney was next, and at the end of Neil Jarney's quadruple stint, he had the same problem at the same corner. So what is going to be going through Roman Dumas' mind as he prepares to get into that car, Sam Hancock?
Well, I think if the car has been running consistently without problem for the past few stints, and he's been standing there in the pit garage seeing that, then he's just going to plug himself in like a robot, press play and drive it on the limit straight away without so much as a second thought. I felt for Mark Lieb earlier on, when he was about to take over the car that had just been hauled out of the gravel, in such a way as to suggest that maybe there was some kind of issue with being able to slow the car down in time. Was the hybrid system working okay? Was the braking system working okay? It wasn't very clear, and the team wouldn't have had, they'd have obviously had some data, but they wouldn't have had enough data to be able to say, yeah, no problem, go for it, brake at your limit on your outlap at Mulsanne Corner. And for me, especially in the dark, especially when you're one of the drivers that hasn't had that graduation stint from light to dark. You've been out of the car whilst it has been getting dark, and suddenly you've got to get in pitch black. You've got to go out and you've got to drive at the same pace. It's no longer acceptable to be losing a few seconds per lap at night time. Nobody does. If anything, they're going faster. They're taking advantage of the lower air temperature and just getting on with it. And this has become the norm now.
Yeah. And as you say that, Earl Bamber turns in a 321. So he's, as Jeremy said, he's now fully up to speed, and it's taken him, 3 or 4 laps, and who knows how many GT cars he had to go past.
Yeah, and the gap back to Marco Bononomi, 41 seconds now. With Benoit Trullier another 27 seconds behind in third place in car number 7. And we just saw a clip of the number 27 SMP Racing. That's a BR Engineering 01 chassis, new car this year, just its second race. They've had some difficulties, but Nick Manasseh is still running in 9th place in the class when that car went back into the garage. Hopefully, it won't be a long stop.
just saw Harry Tinknell there getting into the Nissan. Did I see right? The shot turned away as soon as I looked at the screen, but good to see Harry getting back out into the car.
Good to see the Nissan still running.
Yeah.
Got a lovely close-up here. Now, here you see on the steering wheel how many dials, switches, controls there are all buried on the steering wheel. What do they all do? Right, some of them will change the engine map. Some of them will change the display on the dashboard to give you a different readout. One of them will adjust the brightness, because as it gets darker, even the lower intensity LEDs on the steering wheel dash display are blinding. And actually, one of the most high-tech bits of equipment I have ever used at Le Mans is a bit of sellotape, literally a bit of tinted sellotape, or just a bit of tank tape that we kept tacked to the top of the dash or the top of the steering wheel, so that the driver, whenever he wants, as it starts to get dark and the LEDs even on their lowest brightness setting, you could just grab it and tape over the shift lights on top of the steering wheel, because in the dark you still see through a bit of black tank tape. You get enough light coming through to still use the shift lights as you normally would.
And you've got enough confusing light input into your eyes.
Yeah.
You don't need it even more.
Do you know what, there's only one, there's one, for me at least, the golden rule, if ever I'm doing a long distance race like this, is I sit myself in the car earlier in the week, I mean, for however long it takes, until I can test myself and access all of the switches with my eyes closed. And then, if you know, sort of have somebody say, right, change the engine map or whatever, and with my eyes closed, I'll reach across and I'll try to get the right switch, and I'll make the adjustment, and then I'll open my eyes and see if I've actually done the right one. And until you can get that correct,
You can almost do it in your sleep.
Exactly, you're not ready for the race.
Yeah.
I remember in 2010 when I was with Aston in the LMP1 car, sitting in the pit garage for over an hour with the security guy, thinking I was completely nuts after all the team had gone home, but it really paid off in the race. Right, just looking at the Nissan Nismo Twitter feed, Harry Tinknell pits the number 22 car for fuel only. So they're up and running. This is good news for Nissan fans. They are back underway and running consistently by the looks of it, without the need for anything unscheduled. Great to see that. We need a bit of good news from the Nissan camp. They were never expecting to come here. Well, I say that actually they were never expecting to come here and have it all go swimmingly. The very first announcement, when they first announced the project, the head of the company made pretty grand claims about winning first time out overall, which was rapidly retracted and diluted by Darren Cox, who's sort of in charge of the public announcements now, and probably better place to do so. But I think respectability is what they've been looking for this year, and it's been a very respectable effort. It's maybe been hamstrung by unexpected developments in their test program. They haven't been able to arrive here with the car that they thought they were going to be able to arrive here with. They haven't got the power, they haven't got the hybrid system working, and you can't just unplug these things. These are integrated components of these cars. They're all designed together with one concept in mind, and you can't just say, oh, do you know what, that's not working very well, let's just not run with that, but keep everything else the same. Yeah, because it has a knock-on effect, and that has really pegged them back this year.
The brakes,
the depth of tyres. So they were designed around a very a small wheel, so that the sidewalls of the tyres were very deep, and that had great advantages for traction and braking. They now can't do that. They have to run a more traditional low-profile tyre, so they lose some of the performance gains that they had designed their concept, their very unusual concept, around. But I really hope that this time next year we'll be seeing a much more representative picture of the performance that this fantastically different LMP1 car is capable of providing.
Yeah, but again, it shows that the rules that the ACO have come up with allow all of these different technologies to come to sports car racing.
That's just fantastic.
Which is one of the things that again and again is being one of the criticisms of Formula One, that it's too restrictive.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Just looking at the screen now, we've got a yellow flag down at the second chicane. If we stay on board as we currently are with the Chevrolet Corvette of Tommy Milner, yeah, it's Tommy Milner at the wheel. He's heading down to the first chicane. Now look out here for the blue. Oh, it keeps happening. I'll get back to that story the next onboard we get.
And the pictures, by the way, are cut by the world feed, so we don't have any control over what we have. But I think we'll tell you what, we've had some fabulous pictures. They might not be perfectly timed for us on all occasions, but I think we've had some wonderful images here at Le Mans this year. And what's fantastic is, for the first time, we've got full camera coverage all the way through the night.
Yes, we didn't have that last year.
No.
We've never had it before.
The caption on the screen there just reminding us that the lead gap, the gap between first and second place in GTE Pro between Richie Stanaway in the Aston Martin and Tommy Milner in the Chevrolet Corvette, is running at around 59 seconds, and it's been that way for a while now. The tight tooth and nail battle that we saw earlier on waged between those two, sadly not so close, but the fact that the top three cars in that class are all on the same lap, with Tony Vilander in the Ferrari, the 51 Ferrari, quite a long way behind, 2 minutes 37 behind the leader in that class, so unlikely to close up. But if we get another safety car period at some point in the race, and if the pack is not split by the three safety cars that will come out when they come out and wherever they come out, and peg back whoever unfortunately gets stuck behind them, then we could be in for a titanic battle in the top three of the GTE Pro class.
We've got another yellow.
Zone 2 is obviously over at the start of the circuit. That's the Dunlop chicane. Gets very slippery up there. There's a few corners late at night as it gets to this kind of time. So the temperature really drops. So you start to get a bit of condensation, a bit of moisture. And this track is a living, breathing, changing organism. And there's some areas like the Dunlop chicane that we're looking at right now, the Aston Martin going into. Also, Tertre Rouge, not as bad now as it used to be, but it used to sit under the trees and very close to the road above that would, over the months between the Le Mans 24 hours, all the oil and dust and grit would get thrown onto the little used Tertre Rouge corner, along with the leaves falling from the trees above, making it very, very slippery, especially in the night. It's a bit better now that the corner's been pulled forward.
Yeah. One of the things, on my way in, I was looking at the weather forecast, just to come in about slipperiness. There is still rain forecast for midday tomorrow.
Today?
Wow.
Today, yes.
3:48 in the morning here at Le Mans, and what a great picture it is now. If you look at the leaderboard, if you're from New Zealand, Earl Bamber leads in the number 19 Porsche. Earl Bamber from Wanganui, 24-year-old from Kiwiland, and also in the GTE Pro, car number 99, Richie Stanaway, another project of the New Zealand Speed Sports Scholarship, by the way, in the early days of his career. Is really a talented driver. Richie Stanaway, also 24, from Tauranga. And great to see those young Kiwis. They've got some opportunities from Grant McDonald, who's a great character in New Zealand. He ran the New Zealand Speed Sport magazine for many years. He's kept that scholarship going. Many of the top Kiwis have come through that program, and hats off to Grant there. And what a great effort there's been by both of these two youngsters, really making a name for themselves at the Le Mans 24 Hours in 2015. Richard Stanaway, though, he's absolutely flying. He's regularly turning laps now, a couple of seconds quicker than everybody else in the GT class. Last lap was the same, 3:56 for Richard Stanaway in car number 99 for Aston Martin. The 58s that most of the other guys are doing, certainly the Tommy Milner Corvette and Tony Vilander in the Ferrari car number 51 in third place.
And talking about flying, the two Audis have just turned in 320s, which is amazing times. That's quicker than they qualified at.
Who? The Audis at 320?
The Audis, 320s.
Did one of them not do 319?
319. Well,
I think it was. Yeah, I mean it's qualifying pace. But I've been hearing a lot about this. People have been speculating. Oh, you know, were they sandbagging? Well, they weren't sandbagging. Okay, were they concentrating on race setup through the qualifying sessions? Probably yes. That's kind of Audi's style, to look at the bigger picture. You know, their ego doesn't get in the way of their race strategy. They're brilliantly consistent like that. But I actually think it's a lot more simple. I think we're just seeing the track is rubbered in a lot more now than it was on Wednesday and Thursday. Well, Wednesday night was the main qualifying night, wasn't it? We didn't see anyone go any quicker on Thursday.
Not the quick guys, no,
yeah.
Not ultimately. But you know, the Audis, we talked about it before. They just didn't run. They had a game plan for the weekend, and they've stuck to. They say that every year, and they do it every year pretty much. The cars go faster when they put on, when they're running on a low tank of fuel and running on fresh tyres. They're going to go faster. There was no need to do that in qualifying. They knew they couldn't match the pace of the Porsche in qualifying. They're quite happy to give qualifying day to the Porsche team. It's all about the race win, and you know, now they're showing their full hand. Is it true that they didn't go as fast as they could have done in qualifying? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But as I say, that wasn't their goal. The goal was to make sure they know exactly what they're doing for the race. And that's also why this morning in the warm-up, we saw one of the cars running, I think he turned a 319 in a warm-up this morning, for goodness sake, several seconds quicker than everybody else. And that's because one of the cars was on a relatively low tank of fuel. I think it was the number 9 car, wasn't it? Was that Felipe Albuquerque who set that time in the warm-up? Can't remember now. But the other cars running, well, one of them was running a medium tank of fuel and was running heavy on fuel, because they wanted to get a reading on the track conditions as they were at the beginning of the race, because it had changed significantly from the final period of qualifying on Thursday night. After that, we had a lot of rain most of yesterday on Friday, so all the rubber washed away from the racetrack. And again, Sam, it's all about the preparation, isn't it, for the race?
It really is. And just to explain what it means to work on race setup, because we hear this a lot, you know, teams sort of saying, oh, you know, don't worry about us not being too quick in quali. We're not worried about being on pole. We've been concentrating on the weekend, on the race setup. What that means is the fact that when you go into a long race like this, several factors need to be considered. One is that you're going to be running full fuel tanks. You're going to be running the car heavy, and that has a huge effect on the balance of the car, how it feels, how much grip there is. You're also going to be running lots of different types of tyres. The tyre compound that you choose in a race will be different than from qualifying, because it has to go so much further. In qualifying, you just need a tyre to give you 1 or 2 flat-out quali laps, and then if it's past its best after that, so be it. In the race, you've got to last for 2, 3 or more hours. Finally, you've got to factor in the fact that the circuit changes. It traditionally gets more grippy over the course of the race, but you can't predict the weather conditions. So if you find yourself in the middle of the 24-hour race and there's a bit of light rain, and you've set a car up to be very fast in dry qualifying, typically a setup for a very fast car is very pointy with very little understeer, maybe even a little oversteer dialed into it, making it quite twitchy and nervous. Manageable for 1 lap, not manageable for long stints, and definitely not manageable in worsening conditions with a bit of moisture on the track.
Now, we've just seen pit stops for 2 of the Audis on that last lap. The erstwhile second place car of the car number 9 was driven by Marco Bononomi. He done a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple stint, count correctly. He's just handed over that car to Felipe Albuquerque. Interestingly, it was a 1 minute 40 second pit stop, which is 20 seconds longer than usual. Normally it's just under a minute when they just changed fuel. When they put tyres on, there's an extra 20 seconds, so it's about 1 minute 20. That one was 1 minute 40. I'm also curious, Luca de Grassi has taken over the wheel of the number 8 car from Loic Duval. That was also a 1 minute 40 second stop. I wish we'd seen what happened during those pit stops.
Well, I did see one thing. They were taking a tear off the windscreen.
That's not going to take 20
seconds. It doesn't take long, but they were obviously doing a full service.
I tell you, when you consider how much is won or lost with vision and how important those tear-offs are for providing vision. And we saw Brendan Hartley earlier on having a shocker when he had some oil on his screen from following a car that was leaking a little bit of oil too closely, and then he made the fatal mistake, which you must never ever do, which is try to wash it off with your screen washer and the windscreen wiper, and it just makes it worse. He really struggled for his whole stint until he could pit within their fuel window and then have the tear-off taken off. Obviously you can only run a few of those tear-offs, and you can't change them until the pit stops. Why has no one created a sort of a revolving motorized thing? You see them on the
it weighs
camera.
too much, I bet. How many tear-offs would you typically have, though, on the windscreen of a prototype car?
I mean, it's a good question. I don't know the exact answer, but I think they can only run 10 or so.
As many as that?
Something. Yeah, it's quite a few.
Is it?
It's quite a few. Might even be a bit more. And the care that goes into layering them up without air bubbles and without distorting the field of vision is absolutely a skill. It's incredible.
They used to change the whole screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of times during the 24 hours.
It's almost a better way of doing it.
Are McLaren not working, or one of the McLaren's GT cars doesn't have windscreen wipers at all? They're developing some new glass.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What, new glass of what is sort of, I mean, what, a sort of self-cleaning of some
It's rather like Rain-X in the States, which you obviously know about, Jeremy.
Absolutely.
So Rain-X, for probably most of you that don't know what it is it's a liquid. It's a very sort of watery liquid that you rub onto your visor or onto your windscreen, and it forms a transparent film that you can't see. You just use a sort of a cloth, a duster, you rub it on, it clouds up, a little bit of moisture, you let it dry for a couple of seconds, then you just sort of buff it clean, and you get this invisible film that when the rain water hits the screen or hits your visor, it just runs immediately off, very much faster than it would than if you didn't use it.
Yeah, and it works maybe even a little bit better than the old school way, which is rubbing a bit of cut potato.
Yeah,
your visor.
yes,
Just
you're right.
what I
remember doing that in karting. Yeah, absolutely right. Okay, so we're just riding on board here with Audi Sport number 9, Felipe Albuquerque, as he negotiates the GT traffic. Now, we got a good shot there. A couple of the GT cars just gone out of shot, actually, and they were both running blue LED lights, which is something that's come in on Twitter from a few of you asking, why do the GT cars, why do several of the cars have coloured LED lights, often located inside the cockpit? And one of you sort of commented, surely when you're driving at night, having no lights at all on inside the cockpit would be most helpful, and you're absolutely right is the answer to that. And if these lights are located inside the cockpit, you can be sure that they're pointing forward and through the windscreen and very cleverly shrouded to make sure that none of the glare reaches the driver's eye view. Now, there's two reasons that you run these things. Mainly for identification. It's just for the team. They know roughly on the stopwatch when you're going to be arriving at the start-finish straight. It's not that common now with all the sort of electric pit boards that lean out and give the driver the information on their own. But if you needed to know which of your cars was coming down the straight, if you know that it's got a green or blue LED or whatever, then you can see, all right, that's this one. Otherwise, it's just a blur of white headlights or yellow headlights in the case of the GT classes. But another thing that happens in terms of LED lighting in the cockpit is you often have just above and behind the driver's head, sometimes you have a little sort of, yeah, maybe a blue, just a little single bulb LED just illuminating, just a low level of illumination inside the cockpit, so you can actually see where all the switches are. UV light can be quite good actually, because it picks up any day glow, and if the switches are well designed, everything will be black. It's set for the labels on the switches and the little outline of the shape of them, which really makes it easy to see them, but without causing a whole load of distracting dazzling blur from all the dashes around in the middle of the night.
That's a team experience thing, that one.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so, yeah.
Another couple of questions here on Twitter, which maybe we'll get back to when we come back here. One of them is very quickly, Sam. How long do you think it would be before we see hybrid technology on the GTE cars?
Well, I don't think it can be that long, can it? Because GTE Pro is a manufacturer-dominated class, and they really celebrate the opportunity to develop technology that transfers directly to their road car product, and I can't imagine a more suitable environment than that category.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what sort of... There's a lot of interesting technology on these GT cars already, with the cameras and the radar early warning system, if you like, which is pioneered on the Corvette, where they can it tells the driver with an LED display in front of him what sort of car is coming up behind him and how quickly. Remarkable technologies.
Well, very soon we will have automatic blue lights, overtaking lights. That can be. Well, we'll talk about that after the commercial break that we're just about to go to.
Welcome back. We've just seen a pit stop for our race leader, Earl Bamber, car number 19. That is, he had a lead of about 63 seconds over the number 7 car driven now by Benoit Trollier for Audi. So he's going to come out of the pits maybe just about ahead of him. It's going to be interesting. 52-second stop, fuel only for Earl Bamber. Can he maintain his advantage? He has done at the moment. And we're on board here with the Corvette of Oliver Gavin. Tommy Milner is driving that car now, and he is within a couple of seconds of Richie Stanaway, but I think he's due for a pit stop himself in the not too distant future.
I quite like George Moskov UK to clarify what he means. He suggested the longer stop that we saw for the Audis are because half
-3 to the leader, -3 to the leader. He is starting a double on his tires. He is starting a double on his tires.
Just hearing there from Tommy Milner's engineer, reminding him that he is just 3 seconds away from the leader of the GTE Pro class. That's Richie Stanaway in the Aston Martin, who we understood is starting a double stint on fresh tyres.
He's on the middle of a double stint. In actual fact, he stopped on lap 179, which is just last time around. Richie Stanaway was on the pit lane. He did not change tyres at that stop, so he's already run one stint on those tyres with Stanaway, and will continue now to do another one as well, and turning very, very quick lap times he was as well.
So if Richie Stanaway is in the middle of a double stint on his tyres, what tyres is Tommy Milner on right now?
Tommy is also, he's coming to the end of a double stint on his tyres as well. He put on this fresh set of tyres at 2:30. It's now 4 o'clock in the morning, so an hour and a half he's run. So he's kind of halfway through the second stint on that.
So they're you know, they're sort of 2-3 seconds away from each other on reasonably similar age tyres. We could be in for quite a nice battle.
We certainly could.
Be good. Brilliant. Fantastic.
Certainly are. It's going to continue. And about 90 seconds behind Tommy Milner is Tony Vilander in the number 51A, of course, of Ferrari. He also did not change tyres on his previous stop. And behind him in 4th place is Jörg Bergmeister, who's a lap down in the Porsche, but is, again, just 1 lap down.
Yeah, it doesn't take much, does it? It takes the smallest thing, the smallest technical problem, the smallest error, anything, just an unexpected need to pit, to check something a little longer, and that lap is gained or lost.
Yeah,
straight away.
Yeah, so it was a good stop by the Porsche team there, and Earl Bamber was indeed able to maintain his lead.
But just to carry on that thread that we were asking a second ago, will hybrid systems appear in the GT classes? And we thought that probably they would. It makes sense to think that they would in the GT Pro class, especially. Somebody's asking, will they appear in LMP2 cars? And I would say that as long as they remain expensive, you know, sort of bespoke systems, then the answer is no, because...
Well, of course, we're going over in 2017 to the spec engine. Will the spec engine come with spec hybrid?
No, because it's going to be too expensive. I think even in even another 18 months, I think it's still going to be too expensive to run at that sort of level. And back to the GT question, the problem with the hybrid technology is it's very heavy. These cars are already pretty heavy, and you cannot lose that weight elsewhere in a GT car. So I don't think it's very likely. In actual fact, I think it's more likely in maybe some other similar series.
That's what we want to hear.
Yeah.
Tommy Milner being given the all clear to go for it. His engineer was telling him his fuel number, his fuel consumption at his current pace is okay. Now the car, the Richie Stanaway's car, the gap keeps changing. We got it on the timing screen at 1.5 seconds. It visibly looks to me to be a little bit more than that, but obviously it's only updating when the cars cross the various timing loops around the lap. So we look at one of the Straka mechanics grabbing a midnight feast, making me very hungry looking at that. If anyone's listening at Straka, feel free to pop down to the Eurosport TV booth. There's one of those wraps.
Please bring us one.
Yeah.
But isn't it nice to see Straka going after the dreadful year that they had last year, all that they went through?
Yeah, it's great actually, and you know what, they haven't had a lot of time with this car, and they're having a really nice run. They're smack in the middle of the LMP2 pack. Got Johnny Kane at the wheel right now. They've got 3 such great drivers. Nick Ventus over the years has got himself up to the point where, fine, okay, he's lacking a little bit of that final edge in pace compared to his pro teammates of Johnny Kane and Danny Watts. But in every other respect, for all intents and purposes, he's as fit as a pro. He's got experience. He's an LMP2 winner here. It's brilliant. So, and we keep saying this, don't we? In the classes that have amateur drivers, specifically LMP2, where you must have at least one silver-rated driver that is the amateur, and in GTE AM, where you must have 2 silver-rated drivers, 2 amateur drivers. Your overall level of performance as a team is going to be entirely dictated by the level of the amateur drivers, not of the pros, because all the pros are within a gnat's whisker of each other, but the amateurs are quite disparate in terms of their abilities and their pace for the most part. So you're only as good as that amateur. Especially
at this sort of time of night.
Yeah.
Because the amateurs might be able to go well during the day at the beginning of the race, but as they get more tired and conditions change, then their performance changes.
Definitely. And perhaps people that are quite new to watching Le Mans might be asking a question, what? This is a world-class motor race. You've been telling us this is the biggest, most trying testing race in the world. What on earth are amateurs doing taking part? Well, amateurs have actually been the backbone of motorsport in general, but specifically this race since its very earliest days 90 years ago.
Yeah, but they're paying drivers. Look at Formula One.
Yeah, full of paying drivers.
Full of paying drivers.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's everywhere.
Well, I like to think of it differently. I like to think that in the same way as any of us can go and run the London Marathon or the New York Marathon or whatever and be a part of the same event that also at the head of the field has world-class athletes, this is one of those iconic sporting events where in this case, they can't just be anybody. It has to be extremely competent amateurs can participate if they have earned their stripes. And by that, I mean they have to have had a certain level of motorsport success in order to earn the appropriate license that grants them access to this race.
That's one thing that we ought to tell our viewers, is that they have to have done quite a lot of motor racing, even just to be here, to be allowed to be here. And these days, if people, before people can come to Le Mans, they also, you were saying the other day, Sam, they have to go to Paris and go through the simulator and do a day's course.
Well, that used to be the case, Chris Parsons, certainly, but this year the goalposts have been moved a little bit by Gaetan Palatu, driving the number 41 car. His first ever race in anything was 10 months ago. The winner of the Nissan GT Academy last year. That's a program that's been going now for 7 years and produced a whole string of very, very talented drivers. And Gaetan has done a really good job this weekend. He had a bit of a miscue on Wednesday, but boy, he's been fast. And we were talking, John Lancaster was in here early this evening after that car went out of the race when it had a battery failure, nothing to do with any of the drivers, and yeah, he was very impressed, no question about it, by what Gaetan Palatu was able to do. But certainly, generally, you have to work at it in order to get the license. And yeah, but he's been very, very intensely trained by Nissan to prepare for this race.
Well, look, let me put Gaetan's 10-month program from gamer sitting at home on his sofa to making his Le Mans debut here in an LMP2 car. Let me put that into perspective. I've been involved in co-driving and therefore coaching a lot of the sort of gentleman amateur drivers that we've been talking about, and in fact I've coached 3 LMP2 winners, 3 gentleman driver winners of the LMP2 class here at Le Mans. And the best example is Simon Dolan, who's actually on track now in the number 38 Jota car. And we took 4 years to get Simon from his first ever track day to making a very competent debut, a very respectable amount of pace in a GT2 Aston Martin here at Le Mans. A couple of years later, after a couple of attempts to get into the race, get the experience, you know, we had a crash, we had an engine failure. We had a lot of things go wrong, but they finally got it together, and he won the LMP2 class last year. Now, that's 6 years from a standing start.
Yeah.
Gaetan's taken 10 months to get into this race. I mean, it's extraordinary. Now, you can fast-track the system. There is a minimum number of races required with a minimum level of results required in order to get the license upgrades that you need. And he has done it. He has fulfilled what the rule book asks of him. My only problem with it is that you can't make up for experience. And I totally get that you can create a very rapid racing driver in 10 months, especially with the sort of program that Nissan has, because they've got the best guys on board to do the job.
They've got a huge, weight behind them to make that happen.
They really do. But I just wonder if there's a few little mishaps, and we have seen a few mishaps from Gaetan. I just, frankly, perfectly understand why.
Yeah, you're going to make mistakes.
You're going to make
learn from you.
But he's learning on the job, and I don't know if that's the right thing to put somebody in so soon, but
yeah, it's just if something does go wrong, you know, the youngster's going to get blamed for it, rightly or wrongly. And is that fair on him? I don't know, but certainly he's given a very, very, very good account of himself, and he's shown what it can be done. But for any other youngsters out there, I really recommend you pay your dues in this sport, because as Sam Hancock just said, it is all about experience. Talent is hugely important, but you do need experience. You just get better. Every time you drive a racing car, even if you've been driving a racing car for 15 or 20 years, you learn something. You're constantly building up that knowledge base. When the car slides in a different corner, there's another fire.
We've got another fire. Of course, a Ferrari team. I didn't see exactly which car. It's one of the GT Am class cars. Car 61, that's Gia Maria's car. They're running quite far down the back of the GT Am class pack. Jeez, there's a few too many fires this week.
Yeah.
Not liking the...
Only the second one in the pits, probably, but they were both of them in the last hour or so. Is that significant? We're what, almost 40
Ferraris
into this race. Yeah, both Ferraris too. There's a Nissan into the pit lane one more time. There is a 61 car there, so they're now refueling the car properly. Out comes the Earth lead, and away he goes.
Is the fire situation, is that mechanics getting tired?
Quite.
You know, here we are at,
I don't know.
at 4 o'clock in the morning. They've been going for 13 hours. They may have.
I mean, there's a lot. Look, there's a lot of safety systems. You know, all the fuel hoses, all the couplings, and everything are designed with fail-safe in mind. As we look on the screen, we've got a car going slow. I think that's the run down toward the Porsche curves, perhaps. I couldn't
We're
quite
being
see.
told car number 27 is going slowly. And
Track clear in slow zone. I don't.
that's the SMP Nissan.
Yeah, that's been in and out of the pits lately. Nicolas Minassian, we saw come into the pits a while ago. It wasn't a terribly long stop that time, so he's back out in the Freitas. Lost a couple of positions, certainly. It's 7, 8, 9. I'm still thinking the top 10 in P2. Quick lap there from Brendan Hartley, 3 minutes 18.9. That's the quickest lap we've seen in quite a long time. Brendan Hartley running in 4th place in car number 17 and trying to close down the gap to the second of the Audis. We've got the Porsche Revolt. His teammate Earl Bamber leads the race by about 62 seconds over Benoit Trullier in Audi car number 7. Then out Felipe Albuquerque, who's another. I'm not quite sure what the gap is now because he just made a pit stop. Have to wait till they cycle through. But then Brendan Hartley is only about 8 seconds behind Felipe Albuquerque in 4th place. So the number 17 Porsche closing in on Felipe Albuquerque in car number 9. It's Albuquerque who set the fastest lap of the race earlier on this evening, 1:17.847. So some very quick laps here in the middle of the night. It's the first time we've seen anything sub 19 for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Just to bring us back to the fantastic battle that we've got raging at the head of the GTE Pro class. Richie Stanaway has a cushion of just 1.5 seconds over Tommy Milner's Chevrolet Corvette. I wish we would cut back to it on the screen. I've seen the cars separated by a couple of prototypes carving their way through between them, which occasionally pushes that cushion a little wider, but it tends to be that they get back right into within a couple of cars' lengths within half a lap or so after that.
And incidentally, as we see the class leader in LMP2 coming into the pits, that we switched from him to Brendan Hartley. We were just talking about Brendan. That was a regular stop there. I think they had to pull that car back, didn't they, to get around
to clear the Ferrari.
Yeah.
That was probably the Ferrari that was still stranded in the pits after the fire, perhaps. I don't think we've seen that car leave yet, have we? Is that same AF Corsa car?
Yes. So it's shown on his outlap, actually, than the 61 car.
Okay. It's great, actually, to see Brendan this year. Last year, obviously, being his debut with Porsche in LMP1, driving for them at Le Mans. It's this huge drive. I know Brendan a little bit, and he performed fantastically. But I remember just sort of seeing him around the paddock and in the hospitality last year, and clearly just visibly, like, sort of just looking kind of drained and tired and just like a rabbit in the headlights. Complete contrast this year. Looks chilled and happy and light-hearted, just loving every minute of it, but with the confidence that comes with a year of experience. So just owning it.
Yeah, I've known Brendan for 10 years since he's racing Formula 4 cars. He's always looked like that, but he is a heck of a driver. He's so laid back out of the car, but boy, he can drive the wheels off it. We'll be back in a moment.
all-clear night racing at Le Mans 2015. The battle for supremacy is yet to be decided in any of our classes. On pit road at the moment is our LMP2 leader, the number 47 Orica Nissan, Matt Howson at the wheel, but he is pole-sitting car has been in the lead since the start of the race. The battle is still close though. 3 cars in the top 3 of the LMP2 still on the lead lap as we ride on board with our GTE second place car in the Pro class. Tommy Milner's Corvette chasing Richie Stanaway in the 99 Aston Martin that started on pole. The distinctive light feature, signature of the Corvette. Blue mirror there to help identify the car as it comes towards you. Beg your pardon, of the Aston Martin. Blue light as the car comes towards you. And that's to help the teams on the pit wall because they still hang out illuminated pit boards, but pit boards anyway in the same way. And as when you're expecting your car, you look for a light pattern as it comes out the final corner, just to show that you're not waving it around at all and sundry. Stracker on pit road. This car in LMP2 is in 6th position. Johnny Kane's just dropped behind Nick Heifeld's Rebellion, but the Rebellion is a P1 car, so still remains in 6th place in the class as the car goes out. Nick Leventus has now taken it over, and long service work once more on a Nissan. This is the 22 car. 21's officially been retired now, unfortunately, by the Nismo team, and 22 and 23 are doing their level best to make everybody's job a little harder. Martin Haven and Jeremy Shaw with Chris Parsons in the booth.
Chris Parsons is just looking amazed at the complexity under that bonnet. Just look at it.
There goes the bonnet. Those big rocket launchers are the exhaust pipes from the front engine of this car. Last front engine car to race at Le Mans was Dom Peynos's LMP1 Batmobile. Last front wheel drive car, I reckon, was the Mini Marcos in probably 65 or 64.
Which we saw yesterday.
Yes,
which we saw yesterday,
wasn't it? Yeah, Wizzo Williams.
Right.
Saw Wizzo Williams putting it in the gravel.
Wizzo Williams and Josh Sadler from Auto Farm. Josh Sadler, a Porsche man through and through. Quite what he's doing with a Marcos Mantis and a bright yellow one of that, not entirely sure. Talking about bright yellow, this Corvette has been right in the hunt since the beginning. In qualifying, of course, Jan Magnussen crashed heavily in the Porsche curve, stuck throttle, pitched him into the wall. He had no chance of saving it in the half a second or so between success and disaster. The car was destroyed, totally written off, and that left Corvette with 1 car in each of the classes. Factory car, Pratt & Miller car in LMP GTE Pro, rather, and in the GTE AM class, Henri Lecomte making Jacques Lecomte making his return with the his mistakes with the Laber competition team, and that is the only other complete C7 chassis built. So the factory team are going to steal that car and rebuild it now that it's been retired from Le Mans after a crash, to try and take it and race in Tusk. I'm not quite sure how that's going to go. Mark Lieb has got out of the black Porsche. This is the number 18 car. Handing it over. And this is the car, of course, that was on pole. Neil Jarni, Mark Lieb. Neil Jarni setting the lap, and so far, I think has set the fastest lap for the car. Fastest lap of the race, though, set by Felipe Albuquerque in the number 9 Audi. That was as early as lap 62. It's towards the end of his first set of stints. Albuquerque is back at the wheel again. And most of the drivers, the way this works, are going to do around 3 hours in a bunch. So it'll work out that one driver will end out with 1 set of stints less than his 2 teammates. And all the teams will have a pre-assigned plan as to how they work through their driver rota.
But there was a very interesting interview recently with Anthony Davidson and Sebastian Buemi, and explaining that the difficulty that they had both of them, switching over from Formula One to sports car racing, where it is all about teammates and working as a team rather and sharing the car and sharing the experience of of the races, even the shorter races, and very, very interesting.
It's not so much sharing the car, it's actually allowing anybody to see your data and letting them know what you think. I think that's the big thing from Formula One, is you guard everything jealously. I was going to say even from your own teammate, but of course especially from your own teammate. Fernando Alonso apparently saying tonight how exciting Le Mans looks. Well, you know, there's the man who clearly knows his motor racing, because Jeremy Shaw, this has been so far a fascinating but a really exceptionally close racing and very exciting Le Mans.
Yeah, it really has. It's there's not been a lot of sort of wheel-to-wheel racing at the front here lately.
Oh, right, OK. I was just thinking, you know, 3 abreast, 250 miles an hour down the straight. I'm sure I saw that stuff.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of it, however, during the race, and it's just fascinating to see how things are unfolding. I mean, the cars are just running metronomically, it seems, right now. When they take on fuel only, which is most of the pit stops, their pit stops around about 56, 57 seconds. For the Audis, 50, sometimes as quick as 52, 51 seconds for the Porsches, which is interesting. When they make the change tyres, it's an extra 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And we've been seeing that, you know, just all the way through, and the gaps between the cars are staying pretty constant.
Isn't it funny that over the years, instead of changing tyres every time the car came in for fuel, it's moved to changing tyres less frequently, because you have to fuel separately nowadays from doing anything else. And 2 Ferrari fires in the pit lane have explained exactly why. It's basically for safety. Once that dry bake fuel system is released from the car, then you can have 2 guys working on the tyres if you so require. But the days of having a dozen guys clustered around when it all goes woof in a ball of fire are long gone,
thankfully.
And the reason, naturally, is because the less people there are around the car, the less potential there is for injury. I was a pit lane reporter in my early years at Le Mans. This was before fire suits were required, when shorts were quite the thing to wear on a hot day. A couple of times when Peugeots went woof, I was in the very close proximity, and actually you almost get blown off your feet. The vapour explodes so fast. Once I was actually between the car and the fuel tower when it went woof, and I was clear out the other end of the garage before anybody reacted.
When I was learning to be a marshal quite a few years ago, one of the things we had to do was to put out a fire. And they created a fire, and as you say, it doesn't half go whoosh, and you know, you have to learn how to, and all these marshals will have done it, learn how to put it out.
22 Nissan briefly returned to pit road and has been pushed almost immediately straight back in. Oh no, that was it going back in the first place. We did see it return to pit road, and it was sent back out a couple of minutes ago, so this is a replay of its more recent travails.
But 150, excuse me, Martin, 150 laps completed by the number 23 Nissan, 145, so just 5 laps less by the number 22 car. Was that the one that was just pushed back in the garage?
And has gone back out into the race.
And the number 21 car, that has been officially retired from race, but did 115 laps. So, yeah, exactly. That's
the marker of doom.
It is. Not too many cars up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, what, 8 is it?
8 crossed out, one of which didn't start. So we've had 7 official retirements so far, and 1 non-starter from a field of 56. And this is after now 13 and a half hours of racing.
It's very impressive, isn't it? Very impressive.
Denny Hamlin's, Kevin Hamlin rather, on Twitter was tweeting in a NASCAR style, "Caution's out, how many laps to go? Just the 12 hours." Ain't going to be no green-white checker here. However, Chris was just showing me in the break the weather forecast on his phone, and sun coming up 5:59, which seems rather late to me, presumably because it's a little cloudy, but also prediction of rain.
Comes up at the same time with the clouds.
Yeah, I know, 5:50 or 6 o'clock, that seems very late.
The question whether we can see it, I think that's...
Seems to think that the sun comes up a